Hello, and welcome to the webinar. My name is Charles Hayward, and I will be your host for the webinar today. The mobility landscape is in an ever-evolving state, and with the ephemeral nature of this technology, businesses are undergoing a multidimensional shift today. This live webinar by Endeavor and Xamarin will help you discover the strategic approach to setting up and nurturing your mobile center of excellence. In today's webinar, we will have a 45-minute session followed by a 15-minute question and answer round. Please feel free to raise any question in between the presentation by typing them in the questions window in your GoToWebinar console. The webinar is being recorded for your convenience, and the link of the recording will soon be shared with you. Also, you can visit techendeavor.com/webinars to view our old webinars or subscribe to our YouTube channel for more video updates. Let me introduce you to your panelists for today. We have Ramananda Shetty, Technical Architect for Endeavor Software Technologies, and Spencer Montgomery. Let's begin with a brief overview of Endeavor. Endeavor is a mobility-led digital transformation company providing world-class solutions on enterprise mobile, cloud, and analytics to leading global enterprises and startups. Our portfolio of service offerings addresses end-to-end business and technology needs of our customers, including consulting, development, and integration capabilities, security and testing services, value-added services in the form of frameworks and solutions, and unmatched user experience. Strategic consulting forms the core of Endeavor service offerings. Our experts help organizations plan their technology infrastructure needs for enterprise digitization based on criteria like build versus buy, standard versus custom development, device management and app deployment, data security, testing, and digital solution optimization and sustainability. We distinguish ourselves from the competition by offering value-added services to our clients in the form of frameworks, solutions, and enablers. Our test automation framework, NTAF, empowers organizations with centralized security and testing teams to deal with processes, tools, and best practices for enhanced testing effectiveness. Endeavor's multi-layered security framework, Ensure, allows businesses to eliminate costly, time-intensive implementation of various security-related guidelines as required in regulated industries, thereby enabling business agility. NCAP is Endeavor's proprietary cross-platform app development mobile framework and used to build native apps for smartphones and tablets. The framework enables a single code base combined with an automatic code generation approach for the development of mobile apps on all leading mobile platforms to allow hassle-free deployments, speed up application development, and reduce time to market. Gartner cited NCAP among industry solutions in their recently published Market Trends report titled The Journey Ahead for Rapid Mobile Application Development. Enact, a plug-and-play framework, enables businesses with the most meaningful and actionable insights on app performance and user behavior in the fastest and smartest way. Organizations can easily and seamlessly integrate Enact into their marketing efforts to measure, analyze, and understand app and campaign success. The dedicated customer experience team at Endeavor enables brand empathy by transforming ideas into experiences. The primary focus of the Endeavor Interactive team is to bridge the gap between business objectives and user expectations by studying market and behavioral scenarios and build information architecture using wireframes, visual design, and UI elements. Here are some quick facts about Endeavor and a snapshot of our global delivery footprint, industry focus, and key clients. We started out as a pure services company, providing mobile application development services in 2002, with solutions on the Palm OS, and soon went on to become the largest services-led enterprise mobility company in the world. Over the last decade, our team of skilled engineers has worked with more than 500 global enterprises, including Fortune 100 companies, as well as SMEs, helping them with their digital needs. We are CMMI Level 3 assessed, with a wide cross-section of domain and industry experts who provide consulting expertise to our clients. Our portfolio of offerings span across verticals and platforms, and we have formed strategic partnerships with industry leaders to build a comprehensive technology ecosystem. Headquartered in Austin, Texas, Endeavor has state-of-the-art global delivery centers in Bangalore, Dallas, San Francisco, London, and Singapore. Endeavor has recently signed a definitive agreement to merge with Genpact to add to Genpact's digital capabilities in mobile consulting, architecture and design, implementation, and testing. Early harbingers of the digital evolution the human race has undergone in the past decade and a half. I mean, look around. I'm astounded by the progress we've made in such a short period. Today, my 10-year-old owns a smartphone. My wife does all her Christmas shopping online. And my 67-year-old mother has an Apple Watch. Would you believe it? I remember not too long ago when I held a Nokia phone in my hand and thought to myself, how such a tiny little thing can carry my voice all around the world, and that too, without any wires. But whether we like it or not, the mobile technology space is growing fast. And how? The mobile ecosystem today is much more than just cellular phones. It includes a range of mobile devices that are wireless and communicate with each other. Devices like tablets, wearables, beacons, augmented reality devices, and much more. Not to mention a whole range of enabling technologies like Bluetooth, Wi Fi, NFC, geopositioning services, and the likes. This mad influx of digital innovations can be a bit overwhelming at times, but it's not in our hands, is it? We can either choose to get on board or get off. Everybody joining us for this webinar today chose the former. And that's why we're all here today, aren't we? I guess it's safe to assume that your business, like every other business today, has either already invested in mobile technologies or plans to in the near future. It doesn't matter where you are on the maturity curve or how big or small your business is. You want the same thing as everybody else, to be able to grab the customer's attention, to engage them in a dialogue, to tell them why they need to pick your product or service over others. You could chalk it up to the proliferation of mobile devices or the internet, or the fact that the modern day customer is exceedingly digital savvy, or the limitless opportunities for customer engagement with a plethora of mobile technologies, or improving workplace mobility. But every business wants a piece of the pie. Everybody has their hand up, yelling, "Me too!" I came across this interesting statistic which says there are close to 4 million consumer apps available across app stores, and we don't even know how many enterprise applications are out there. But what's the catalyst behind this surge in mobile app adoption amongst businesses? Ease of application development, low cost, shorter development cycles, clear value definitions, and high user adoption are just a few of the reasons that have brought about this change. Digital, and more specifically mobile, has transformed how industries operate. It has ushered in a new business model, new products, and new services. Industries such as retail, healthcare, manufacturing, and financial services have been at the forefront of the mobile technologies revolution. And as a result, these industries have also witnessed the most innovation and have the highest adoption rates than any other industry. And consumer-facing apps are only the half of it. Mobile technologies have also allowed businesses to empower their workforce to stop being desk-bound and complete their task on the move. Employees are allowed to access their work products anytime, anywhere, in order to meet the agility and productivity demands of a 24/7 business. Interestingly, a survey conducted by IDG reveals that 55% of employees use their personal mobile device for work as well. This means that the line between personal and business is fading quickly, making way for innovative BYOD policies and liberal shadow IT policies. But is everything as hunky-dory as it seems? But are these businesses ready? Not quite. This Me Too culture has meant that a lot of organizations have hopped on to the mobility bandwagon without a long-term vision for their mobile initiatives. And that's something both consumer app developers and enterprise developers have in common. Most organizations are still heavily reliant on external partners for most of their application development requirements, or, like in some cases, dependent on a citizen developer, a term coined by Gartner to describe the non-conventional programmers who work on runtime environments sanctioned by the IT department. This could prove to be a Pandora's box for the organization in the long run, resulting in issues like security hacks, lack of documented processes, haphazard app architectures, and the possibility that the app doesn't function the way it was originally intended to, among other things. But the challenges don't end there. Let's take a step back. Even before the app goes into production, there's a long list of questions that need to be answered, decisions that need to be made. Questions like, which platforms do you build on? Which platforms do your customers or employees use the most? Do you build only for iOS first? Or should you wait and release the app simultaneously for Android and iOS? Do you even need an app for the Windows platform? Or how about which development approach would suit your requirement best? Does it make sense to invest time and money into creating custom apps for each platform? Or should you create a web app that, on one hand, is write once, run anywhere, but on the other hand, may not deliver the experience your end users are expecting? Or do you create a hybrid app, building a thinly veiled native app around your around your web app? Talk about being caught between a rock and a hard place. And we haven't even scratched the surface yet. Unless your organization is considering building a mobile app as a short-term initiative, there have to be well-defined strategies, processes, policies, standards, and guidelines in place. Your organization must be able to learn from every project cycle and make process improvements, optimize operations, and cut costs the next time around. Anybody can make an app today, thanks to the deluge of easy-to-use app development tools and the abundance of relevant skill sets. But most mobile projects run into trouble after they've been deployed, owing to the lack of a structured approach or governance model. What if you could teach the old dog new tricks? What if you could do just one thing and most of these challenges, if not all, could be dealt with? The answer is a team that deals only with mobile. Most businesses today treat mobile as a separately funded and executed project, and that needs to change. That is, this is where Mobile Center of Excellence, or MCOE, can help. The MCOE is a unit within the organization, which is empowered to drive mobility for the entire business. If your business is serious about mobile, you need to build an MCOE, which needs to do 5 things. First, govern all mobile projects undertaken by the organization. Next, optimize and improve the software development lifecycle, or SDLC, by bringing together experts with specific skill sets. This also helps ensure that there's representation from every function within the organization in this mobility unit. Then, define policies, standards, and guidelines for the entire organization, followed by disseminate knowledge and best practices within the organization. And lastly, identify and nurture relevant mobile skill sets within the organization. There are essentially 3 phases to a MCOE deployment: pre, during, and post. In the pre-deployment stage, the first thing you need to do is conduct a maturity assessment of all the systems, processes, and people capabilities. You could either do this internally, if you have the necessary capabilities in-house, or with the help of an external partner. Next, you will need to clearly spell out the strategies and plans and chalk out goals for the MCOE. And lastly, you will have to draw up an unambiguous roadmap, which will help you get all your ducks in a row. In the second phase, the actual deployment phase, you will concentrate on building a governance backbone for the MCOE, focused on setting up a collaborative project environment that is inclusive of all the relevant stakeholders with the organization, and most importantly, provide emphasis on building a culture that breeds innovation and encourages the reuse of components. In the last and third phase, you will have to nurture the policies and culture that you've developed and look to scale wherever there's an opportunity for growth and improvement. The next step is probably the most important of all. It is to track the progress of the various initiatives undertaken by the MCOE and measuring their effectiveness. Finally, You will need to ensure that you are constantly updating and improving upon the various policies and standards that were defined previously. Now let's break down those steps a bit further. In phase one, the first step is the maturity assessment, and the organization must look to put together an inventory of all the processes, policies, standards, infrastructure systems, and people. This is basically to evaluate where the organization stands with respect to mobility, and it also sets the baseline that can be used to identify gaps, which can be plugged in the later steps. The list of things that need to be assessed includes, but is not limited to, existing mobile applications, mobile networks, mobile projects, both in progress and planned ones, development tools, mobile management tools, enterprise file sync and share tools, mobile app architectural standards in use, mobile hardware and OS standards supported, mobile security standards, mobile development partners and service providers, and mobile-related skill sets available internally. Once this is done, step two will be much easier and more effective. The strategies and goals of the MCOE should be clearly articulated, and this will act as the SLA for all the project teams involved with the MCOE. There are some broad strategies that are applicable to all organizations. However, the specific strategies differ from company to company. Some of the key elements within the strategy would include defining a mobility charter with the kind of projects the MCOE will undertake. Nothing confirms a skeptical stakeholder's wariness of an MCOE as the perception of just another committee that will slow down the progress when projects are well underway. Hence, the MCOE should focus on getting stakeholders into the loop at the beginning, where guidance can be provided and exceptions can be made at the very outset. Also, during the project stages, communication of the MCOE's positive achievements in the form of periodic updates to the leadership goes a long way in bringing down barriers and improving perceptions. Standards and policies need to be defined, like UX standards, mobile app architecture, time to market, app inventory, build versus buy, testing processes, version control, knowledge management, and policies like BYOD, shadow IT, system policies, third-party tools, etc. This will help define boundaries for all stakeholders involved. Then budgets need to be set, aligning resources to the various lines of businesses. The MCOE needs to have a sufficient budget of its own to be able to test technologies and products and develop prototypes before the start of the project. Once the projects start, the costs can be borne by different projects. Various cost-saving measures should also be standardized so that the budgets are not exhausted prematurely. Measures like technology standardization, cataloging of reusable assets, and developing reusable components. A development model must be narrowed down after evaluating and considering all possible project scenarios. However, bear in mind that while Agile may be the right choice for certain projects, Waterfall may be better suited for some others. A standard app development approach must be chosen as well, but this will again differ from case to case. Certain projects may require you to build a native app, while others may require you to build a hybrid one. The MCOE must decide on which functional and business stakeholders must have a seat at the table, and also create a hierarchy for specific roles within the unit. The last step in phase one is building out or detailing a mobility roadmap. This roadmap must contain timelines, long-term and short-term goals or objectives, if you will, to help steer the ship on the right course. Various goals and standards must be outlined, like realistic project timelines, UX and app architecture, reuse of existing components, response timelines, levels of involvement in projects, financial goals like target cost reductions, facilitation of knowledge sharing, greater collaboration and skill sets needed. All of this is very crucial in setting the direction for all initiatives that the MCOE will undertake. The governance architecture acts as the nervous system of the MCOE. Governance is typically managed by the COE lead and other senior stakeholders within the unit. This group governs, supports, evangelizes, researches, and creates best practices for the rest of the unit. It should be ensured that the leader and certain members of the MCOE are dedicated to this unit, and depending on the task at hand, specialists from different functions can be pulled in on a part-time basis. For example, if they are working on a B2C app, the branding team may be roped in to ensure a corporate look and feel to the app. Though its role is more prominent during the project stage, there are a few things that the governance group needs to take care of during the deployment phase to ensure that everything transitions smoothly. Some of the steps in this stage includes facilitating the development of standards and architectural principles, providing uniform templates for assessing business cases, standardizing tool selection across the organization, disseminating knowledge and best practices, ensuring all relevant stakeholders are represented in the decision-making process, and identifying folks who would assume specific responsibilities within the MCOE. These identified folks need to be groomed and trained, and they need to be brought up to speed with all the strategies and policy decisions. Other responsibilities include reviewing infrastructural capabilities, procuring and provisioning of hardware and software, identifying relevant tools and technology partners, and setting up testing practices. The MCOE thrives on collaboration, and it is critical that there's a stakeholders' buy-in right at the start to ensure that there's no hurdles along the way. However, the COE's responsibility towards creating a collaborative environment doesn't end with identifying and enlisting stakeholder support. The COE must ensure that they create an ambience that promotes knowledge sharing between projects and practices. They need to emphasize on documenting best practices, and they also need to enforce templatization and creation of repositories. Reusable components enable faster time to market for mobile apps. It reduces development costs and allows for easier deployment. Hence, it is important to create components that are extensible, customizable, pluggable, and can be made available across platforms. It would be an added advantage if these components could be integrated with other frameworks. If your organization does not have the in-house capabilities to build such components, there are various external options available. Once the MCOE is up and running, it's necessary to ensure that the status quo is maintained and that necessary steps are taken to nurture and sustain the growth of the unit. While it is important to maintain the status quo, maintenance and evaluation of the status of all projects sponsored by or dependent on the MCOE is also very crucial. This has to be done both on a macro and micro level, like tracking of project timelines and the MCOE's role in the success or failure of each project. This will not only help in managing the workloads, but also in demonstrating the value the MCOE provides. Additionally, it's important to remember that the MCOE should not take complete control of a project. Rather, it should serve as a steward for all mobile projects undertaken by the organization, offering guidance and support to the project teams wherever necessary. By taking stock of the inventory and by constantly tracking the progress of MCOE projects, the unit can identify gaps, weaknesses, and opportunities, which will enable them to make improvements and changes to the MCOE processes and policies. These recommendations should be aligned to the MCOE's priorities and should result in more meaningful and actionable outcomes for the unit. A successful MCOE needs to provide review and support on a per-project basis. At the same time, it's important to set up a mechanism to automate issue tracking and trigger notifications to all the relevant stakeholders whenever a red flag is raised. It's also a good idea to create monthly or quarterly report cards for each project and circulate it amongst the senior leadership and other relevant stakeholders to communicate the impact the MCOE has had on the respective projects. This also helps to fortify the role of the MCOE within the organization and change perceptions in favor of the MCOE. Once changes or gaps are identified, it takes some time to assess their impact and to evaluate how they can be addressed by the MCOE. However, this process can be fast-tracked by ensuring that the report findings are reviewed frequently and immediate fixes are prescribed. Additionally, surveys can be conducted with project team members, other MCOE stakeholders and clients to get their inputs on what went right and what could have been implemented better. After having all the recommendations in place, MCOE leaders must ensure that they go back to the drawing board and make tweaks to policies, standards, and processes that aren't working. Now let's talk a little on how Endeavor and Xamarin can help you build a mobile center of excellence. So this is roughly how an MCOE makeup would look like. As you can see, there's a COE lead who would be responsible for governance, under whom you'd have various department heads who would all be part of the service delivery lifecycle for a project. Keep in mind, there may be multiple such project teams reporting to the COE lead at any given time. And also, the COE lead themselves could be working with other stakeholders who guide and support them. We've only highlighted 5 functional groups here. However, depending on the type and complexity of the project, additional functions may need to be roped in. Endeavor's mobility consultants can help your organization in developing a mobility roadmap and conducting an evaluation of existing projects, systems, and processes. In addition to this, Endeavor can also provide training and technical support to your MCOE team to establish best practices and define standards, policies, and guides. Your entire service delivery lifecycle can be powered by Xamarin. The app can be built on the Xamarin platform, which allows you to create a native app for each platform at a much lower cost, with very minimal duplication of effort. The Xamarin Test Cloud will allow automating the testing process, testing the app across hundreds of mobile devices quickly and efficiently. And Xamarin Insights will allow real-time monitoring with precise, detailed error reporting for your apps in a single line of code. With this I'll invite Spencer from Xamarin to take us through the Xamarin capabilities. Spencer, it's all yours.
Thank you so much. While I get things set up here, I appreciate those words from Endeavor. And I'm excited to talk more about Xamarin and how we can work together with Endeavor. To talk about what Xamarin does, Xamarin is the best mobile development platform to help you first accelerate time to market, being able to ship apps faster, being able to transform your team into mobile experts if you come from a C# background, and be able to reuse and share code across the device platforms. Even though we're able to accelerate time to market and share your code, you're still enabled to ensure app adoption because you're able to deliver completely native, high-performance applications. I always run into the inconvenience that people think just because you can share code, it's going to be a hybrid application, but that is furthest from the truth. Xamarin is a completely native application, and be able to really create an entire strategy on top of being able to develop apps. You're able to resolve issues quickly with Xamarin Insights and Xamarin Test Cloud, and really be able to create this strategy. And let me tell you, first off, we kind of understand, mobile in general. There's 3 platforms that most people are targeting. We're very familiar with this. You have Android that makes up 69% of the platforms. You have iOS making up about 20%, and Windows Phone comes in around 10%. So with this fragmentation, it's not an option to just target one of the platforms anymore. You now have to target at least iOS and Android, and sometimes Windows Phone. When you're talking about building a mobile app, everybody wants a native application. No one wants an application that has poor performance or has low functionality. Everyone wants an app that performs just like Facebook does, just like your YouTube or your messaging app. And this shows that 86% of apps are native, whereas 14% are those either the hybrid or web applications. So as an organization, you want to build a native application. Let me just kind of walk you through the decision process that most organizations make. They realize they want all 3 platforms, just for namesake. So For iOS, you're going to need an Objective-C team building an Xcode. For Android, you need a Java team building an Eclipse. And if you want a Windows Phone, you're going to have a C# team building in Visual Studio. This is going to be 3 different teams working alongside of each other, not in conjunction. They're going to have separate code bases. And really, it's going to be very expensive to maintain. It's going to be difficult to align the different project timelines, and it's going to ultimately slow innovation and kill your budget. And so most CTOs and directors of technology find themselves asking, well, isn't there a cheaper way? And that's where the hybrid app development approach has been so common. There's the write once, run anywhere approach. And as we discussed earlier, there are those limitations that you run into. You have incomplete API coverage limiting your app functionality. You're going to have to wait for some. You're definitely not going to get all of the new updates, especially when you get new OS updates like iOS 9 or Android M, as well as slow performance. I can't tell you how frustrating it is when an app either refuses to load or crash, or that it just takes so long for even a picture to load. And really, then you're left with a poorly adopted solution that leads to wasted investment. So now, when we already talked about being between a rock and a hard place, you either have this extremely expensive solution or a solution that just doesn't make sense to continue with. Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook, he mentioned the biggest mistake we made as a company was betting too much on HTML5 as opposed to a completely native solution. That's where Xamarin comes in. Xamarin allows you to build a fully native application, being able to also share anywhere from 60 to 100% of your code base. You have one team completely developing in C# with one set of tools in Visual Studio or Xamarin Studio, being able to optimize your budget as well. Really being able to scale for ongoing maintenance and iterations. It's important to note that Xamarin, because it's native and allows you to develop apps for the Apple Watch, the Apple TV, as well as many Android Wear applications as well. In terms of native, there's 3 key components that are required for a fully native app. The first is native user interface. You want your app to have the same look and feel that an Android app would have compared to an iOS app, as well as the Android or Windows Phone. Each platform has is very unique in terms of its display. And this is the code that you're actually not going to share in a lot of cases. So as mentioned, anywhere from 60 to 100%, the code that you don't share is that native user interface part of the code. The second is native performance. The Xamarin application compiles down to the native binaries, making so that your app is going to perform just as fast, if not faster, than an app built in Objective-C or Java. And the last, and I find this most important, is the high-fidelity API access. We provide 100% of the APIs provided for both iOS, Android, and Windows Phone. We've had same-day support for iOS 9 and for iOS 8 all the way back to iOS 5, which is very critical when you're trying to deliver a beautiful, high-performance mobile application. You could literally write an iOS app in Objective-C and an Android phone, an Android app in Java, and you could write those exact same apps, both written in C#. The only difference is going to be literally line for line identical, the only difference being in C# compared to Objective. So just to highlight Xamarin as a complete mobile solution, you have the Xamarin platform that enables you to design, develop, and integrate across platform native mobile applications. Then with Xamarin Test Cloud, which I'll just touch on briefly, being able to test your application. This can even be, doesn't have to be built in Xamarin. It can be a hybrid or native Objective-C or Java application. But you're able to test these apps on over 1,800 physical devices. Imagining connecting it to your continuous integration environment and being able to upload apps to the cloud with every build and being very confident. We want you to be able to ship higher quality apps faster. And then Xamarin Insights, being able to monitor, get crash analytics, and get reporting as to how your users are using the applications, what issues they are finding, and being able to learn all of this through our online training program, Xamarin University. I'm confident, as I've learned about other technologies and platforms, that Xamarin really is the complete mobile solution, and we're excited to be presenting this with Xamarin, or with Endeavor, and I'll turn the time back over to you.
Thanks a lot, Spencer. Now let's look at some of the successes we've had with our clients and the solutions we were able to deliver using the Xamarin platform. CT Partners, a leading staffing and recruitment firm, chose Endeavor as a mobility partner to build a comprehensive mobile headhunting for their 165 plus consultants spread over 24 countries. The solution powered the entire hiring process while also improving the prospect quality with the vetting and shortlisting stages. It further resulted in enhanced headhunters' productivity with on-the-go access to candidate information, and also enabled greater transparency with real-time tracking of progress and consultant activity. Birdsey, a startup based out of New Jersey, partnered with Endeavor to develop a state-of-the-art personalized shopper engagement platform aimed at leveraging location analytics to engage users in every stage of the buying process, be it pre-purchase, in-store, or post-purchase. The application facilitated an easy product search and comparison and also enabled rollout of relevant offers at the right time. It enabled the retailer to detect in-store movements using technologies like location-based services and iBeacons, thereby enabling easy targeting of relevant information. The application resulted in enhanced connect between retailers and shoppers with triggered messaging content. Also, with Endeavor's expertise in the Xamarin platform, the client saved 70% on development cost. Schneider Electric chose Endeavor as their mobility partner to develop an electric cable requirement calculator app that allowed architects and electricians to calculate the length of the electrical cables required. The app greatly enhanced the efficiency of the calculation process, with a blueprint of the property being constructed, and also boosted the client loyalty with its exceptional utility. Tesco, a leading UK-based retailer, chose Endeavor as its preferred partner to realize its mobility vision. Since early 2010, Tesco has recognized mobile as a key component in its overall IT strategy and a key growth driver as well. It has also been awarded the Mobile Retailer of the Year award in 2011. Tesco had set up a goal to become a multi-channel retailer with the inclusion of online platform via tablets and mobile devices. They planned to build a suite of mobile applications that included the grocery application, Tesco Finder application, Tesco Bank applications, and Club Card application. Tesco soon realized that in addition to developing a suite of applications, they needed an MCOE within the organization to steer through their mobile initiatives and ensure success. However, the road ahead was not so easy. Given the large customer base, it had to ensure that all the mobile platforms were covered and the same enjoyable user experience was maintained across all platforms. To address this, Endeavor developed a suite of applications leveraging the power of Xamarin and aligned to Tesco's go-to-market strategy. The solution provided an integrated in-store, online, and mobile shopping experience to customers with the ease of access to Club Card, payments, coupons, and much more, all in one place. The apps were successful in enhancing the overall shopping experience for users, improving the overall brand image, and also in increasing the revenue potential with analytics on buying behavior. With Xamarin, Tesco delivered Android, iOS, and Windows apps in just 4 months, which has now reached 50,000 users per day and processes 25% of all grocery orders that account for £900 million. Thank you for the insightful session. We now have a few questions that we'd like to ask from the panel. Who should head the MCOE? And should it be a business leader or an IT expert?
This is Spencer from Xamarin. I can answer the questions. I highly recommend that it be an IT leader that would head the MCOE. Next question.
Yes. Should the MCOE be responsible for development as well, or should it just be limited to approving and standardization?
Okay, this is Ram. I can take that question. So even though the MCOC's main focus is innovation and new technologies, it is very important that they work closely with the development team as well. As part of the program management, the standard needs to be defined, and there should be a mechanism by which the other stakeholders in the company can access the MCOE team.
All right. Thank you, Ram. And our last question, how close would the user experience be with Xamarin-based apps compared to that of completely native apps?
That's a great question. Because you're building the app with completely native components, you're going to have an app that is just as responsive, just as beautiful, have all of the transitions, animations that you would expect on an app built in Objective-C or Java. Again, the thing I wanted to note that it is completely native. The only difference is building in C#. So happy to send you other examples of Xamarin applications. You won't be able to tell a difference between an app built in Xamarin versus Objective-C and Java. Feel free to email me at spencer@xamarin.com.
Thanks a lot, Spencer. So, we weren't able to answer all your questions today due to lack of time, but you can expect detailed answers to your questions in your mailbox soon. If you have any more queries, please email us at marketing@techendeavor.com. You can also download Endeavor's Xamarin brochure from the handout section of your GoToWebinar console. Feel free to reach out to us at info@techendeavor.com for any more details. I would like to extend my gratitude to the panelists for taking us through the webinar. And last but not least, I would like to thank all the attendees for taking the time out to attend this session.